He is risen. No. This is a call and response. I say, he is risen, and you say, he is risen indeed. All right. So let's try this again. He is risen. Can we do that one more time just because it felt so good? He is risen. He is risen indeed. That's really good. But you know, sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I'm not sure. Sometimes I doubt. Do I believe that he is risen? Yes. Can I believe it? Yes. I think the historical evidence is overwhelming. There's more evidence that verifies the life and the death and the burial and the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth than virtually any other figure in ancient history. The documented evidence of his life and his teaching is 100-fold of that of Aristotle or Plato or any of the Roman emperors or any of the great Greek philosophers or Genghis Khan or any people from ancient history. The historical evidence, the documentation is absolutely overwhelming. I can believe in this person named Jesus of Nazareth. The circumstantial evidence is undeniable. If you look around at the institutions, the colleges, the schools, the universities that were fashioned in his name, the hospitals and the organizations that care for the poor and the needs of the downtrodden in his name have populated Western civilization and most of the globe for almost 2,000 years. The circumstantial evidence that his life changed the course of history is overwhelming. All you have to do is look at a calendar. We are the year 2024. Since his life, literally, the course of human history changed. BC AD. And I know we've reconfigured it in our secular religion to be CE and BCE, but the reality is it still changed. There was a before that day and after that day. And the anecdotal evidence is hard to deny. The stories of literally hundreds of people that I have known whose lives were complete catastrophes, but because of their faith, because of their belief, because of the forgiveness that is promised by this one individual, their lives were turned around, and those stories are multiplied throughout the centuries to be hundreds and thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, if not billions of people. I know in my own life, my life is different because of his story, because of his birth and his life and his death and his resurrection. I need to believe this. I need to, philosophically, I need to believe it. I can't live in this world without some kind of orientation toward purpose, toward meaning, toward understanding. This can't all be random. It can't all be a scattered association of events. I can't be victimized by unknown things. I have to believe that there is a plan, that there is a story, and that I am part of it. Psychologically, I need that hope. I need that meaning. But I'm an empiricist. I was raised by two teachers who taught me that education and school and knowledge and things like science are important. This is how we know what is true. And so as a person who's a fan of the scientific method, who thinks empirically, who's very rational, I want proof. I want evidence. I want more information. I want data. And even though I have a very sophisticated structure in the things that I believe and the things that guide my life and my faith, I still have doubts. And I'm suspicious. So do you. So do all of us. And I know for a fact that I am not the only one. The story of Jesus, the story of his life, is recorded in the four Gospels. We're all familiar with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And each of them tells in their own way the story of the last days of Jesus' life, of his death and his burial and his resurrection. And each of the gospel authors kind of takes their own take on it. And there were things that happened that they focused on. But one thing that the Gospel of Matthew focuses on is an event on the first Easter Sunday. It's in Matthew chapter 28. In Matthew chapter 28, it tells us that the women who followed Jesus, the female disciples of Jesus, decided on the first day of the week, 3 days after his crucifixion, that they were going to go and they were going to anoint his body. Now, we had no idea how they were going to do this because Jesus was sealed in a tomb. There was a stone rolled over his grave that probably weighed a couple of tons, and it was sealed with a Roman seal. And to violate that seal was a capital crime. You could be put to death for violating the emperor's seal, and the tomb was guarded by 4 soldiers. But they didn't care. They didn't know how it was going to work out. They decided they had to see him one more time. But as it tells us in Matthew chapter 28, when they got there, the soldiers were gone, and the tomb was open, and his body wasn't there. And then in Matthew chapter 28, verse 9, it tells us that Jesus appears to the women. And they immediately recognized him, and they fell down and they worshiped him. And he said to them, I need you to tell my disciples, the other remaining 11 disciples, that I will meet with them at a place that they know of up in Galilee. And so they ran and they told the other disciples, and it was probably a day or two later that they gathered on a mountain, a place where they knew Jesus would meet them. Maybe it was the mountain where Jesus had preached the Sermon on the Mount. Maybe it was the mountain where he had fed the 5,000. Maybe it was the place where he said, if we're ever separated, meet me here. But they all met on this mountain. He appeared to them, and they fell at his feet, and they worshiped him. And that's no small thing. It's no small thing for these Jewish men to be worshiping a person, because it violated the first handful of the 10 Commandments. But they knew that he was God, and they fell at his feet. Days after the resurrection, after they had seen him crucified and placed in a tomb, there he was. And then in Matthew chapter 28, Matthew says something remarkable. 3 simple words. As they were there worshiping them, he noted, but some doubted. Right there. They were looking at him. They could hear him. They could see him. They could touch him. They could validate his existence. He wasn't a figment of their imagination, and they still doubted. It's tough for us to comprehend until we understand what doubt is. In that land, the word that Matthew uses there, it's an unusual word. Only Matthew uses it in the entire New Testament. And he only uses it one other time. So he only uses this word twice. But the root word for doubt, that's translated doubt here, has the idea of to leak or to drip. It was something that happened to a wineskin. If you didn't care for it, if you didn't refill it, the wine would seep out. It would doubt out. It's how they referred to the bilge of a ship, where it wasn't exactly watertight, and you had to constantly had to doubt out the ship to keep it afloat. And so doubt was not this sudden lack of faith. It was over time, a slow seepage, a slow drip, a slow pulling apart of the seams, a leaking away of the faith. In a psychological sense, doubt has to do with a thing called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when we have 2 propositions and we believe both of them, but they're opposing, they're opposite. They can't both be true. Cognitive dissonance is a thing that makes us very uncomfortable. We don't like cognitive dissonance. We don't like both and. We like either or, up or down, left or right, red or blue, correct or incorrect. We don't like the both and. And cognitive dissonance is something that we generally deal with by rejecting something because we need to believe in something else. But doubt is seated in cognitive dissonance. And it's interesting that doubt is the motivation for science. Doubt is the root of all scientific inquiry. How does this work? Why is this happening? What is going on here? The questions that arise, the interrogation that we do of the world that we live in is the scientific method. It is empiricism. It is the interrogation of the world that we live in. It is because we have doubt. It is because we are curious. Over my decades in the ministry, I have seen many people who have run into the difficulties of life, the absurdities of life. Why do bad things happen to good people? The injustices of life, and they can't deal with the cognitive dissonance, so they abandon their faith. The doubt overwhelms them, and they give in to the doubt, and they fall into a hopelessness because they can't hold in tension their faith and their doubt. But I would suggest on this Easter Sunday morning that a healthy faith requires doubt. That a healthy faith is a curious faith, because curiosity is sanctified doubt. Curiosity looks at the world around us and says, why, God? How, God? What do you want from me, God? It interrogates our own life and the world that we live in, and that's a good thing. That we all live with a measure of doubt. We all live, if we have a healthy faith, with a spiritual curiosity. I know if I had been there, if I had been on that mountain that day in Galilee and Jesus had appeared and I could have seen him, I could have touched him, I could have talked to him, the first thing I would have asked is, what's going on? What is happening? Are you going to stay? Are you going to go? What are we supposed to do? I would have had 1,000 questions. I would have been filled with doubt, just like the people there and just like us here today. You see, it doesn't matter how sophisticated our belief is. A faith worth having is a faith worth interrogating, is a faith worth challenging. Our faith should make us more curious, not less. This works for me because I'm an empiricist. I like the scientific method. I like to tear things apart and understand why and how things happen. Did you see it was a tragic thing that happened last Friday, a week ago Friday in Bastrop. There was a school bus driving on a 2-lane highway, and a cement truck, a pump truck, had veered across the center line and struck the bus and rolled it over. And the story was tragic, but what was incredibly tragic was seeing the video. And I watched the video of this desperately horrifying thing. And as I watched it, you know what I said? I said, unbelievable. I can't believe it. And I watched it over and over and over and over. Almost as if by watching it, one time I would watch it and it wouldn't happen. See, doubt is part of faith. Can I believe that Jesus was raised from the dead? Yes, I absolutely can. Do I believe this? Yes, I absolutely do. The historical evidence, the circumstantial evidence, the anecdotal evidence is too overwhelming. There's too much evidence that says this actually happened. Yes, I believe it. But do I really believe it? Because if I really believe it, I cannot be the same. If I really believe it, it changes everything. if I really believe that he was raised from the dead, that what we are celebrating today is based on something that really happened, that means there's more to this world than meets the eye. There's more to this life than this life itself. It means that all of the injustices and all of the mysteries and all of the questions will one day be resolved. It means that he is alive and that there is a hope that transcends all of our hopelessness. If I really believe he is risen, it changes everything. He is risen. It wasn't that long ago that I told you how this worked. It was just a couple minutes ago. I said, when I say this, you say back to me, he is risen indeed. This is why we're here. Because we need help, you know? Well, we do. Because faith is hard. And the world pushes in on us. And constantly says, don't believe that. Don't believe that. Don't you trust that. Lose your hope. Lose your faith. Lose your way. And we come together every week. Not because we got it all figured out, but because we don't. Because in our doubt, in our curiosity, we come together and we look around and we say, can you help me believe this? Can I lean on you when I'm weak? Can I let you lean on me when I'm strong? We need each other. So there's times when we say it like this, he's risen. We're getting there. Maybe some of you would come down and help me. Some of you parents with your kids, come on down here. We want to help everybody with this. So come on down to the stage.
Don't be shy, everybody.
Come on down. Tell Tim to bring his kids down. Come on, guys.
Yeah, don't just send your children as a proxy.
Yeah.
That's not how this works.
Come on.
This is church.
Come on, Jeremy.
Your children
Molly.
too.
Come on down.
Come on down.
We're going to lean on each other. We're going to make this work.
Okay, if you're not going to come down here, would you stand with us this morning? Go ahead and stand up.
All right. You guys are going to help me. We're going to go 3, 2, 1. And you're going to say he is risen. And they're going to come back at us. I want you to come back strong because you're leaning on us up here. So you ready? 3, 2, 1. He is risen.